Hi everyone, today I'm going to be picking a Medeco original, and before I get to that I want to talk a little bit about some of the features of the lock. So to start off with, a Medeco has two locking mechanisms, the pin stacks and then also a sidebar. The sidebar is controlled by the orientation of the pins, so you have to lift the pins to the correct height, and then also they have to be turned in the correct orientation. The key controls both of these because the grooves on the key you can see there are angled. The ones at the top are actually straight because that is one of the orientations that is possible, but the other ones are either angled towards the back of the lock or towards the front of the lock. So when you insert the key, it lifts the pins to the correct height and then also rotates them to the correct orientation. The sidebar itself, which is right here, fits into a groove in the plug, just like this. And I don't have the springs in, but normally there would be two springs in here that push it out. And when the pins are oriented correctly, you can see the sidebar fits right through those slots into the pins and falls in, which would allow you to open the lock. If the pins are not oriented correctly, the sidebar cannot come out of this groove right here in the housing, so the lock would not open. And then of course, in addition to that, you have the standard pins that need to be lifted to the correct height. So those are the basics of the locking mechanism itself. The pins in this particular lock have both a true gate and most of them have a false gate. So you can see right there, hopefully, the true gate is about at the 10 o'clock position, false gate is at the 9 o'clock position. At the 6 o'clock position is the tab that keeps the pin from rotating more than a specific radius, I guess. So basically it has a very small amount of rotation that it can have. It can't spin 180 degrees. If it could spin 180 degrees, it could end up completely turned around and the lock wouldn't open, the key wouldn't function anymore. So just looking at the true gate here, it's the deep one, that slot right there. The false gate is much shallower. It's designed just to catch the sidebar, but not be deep enough that the sidebar can actually fall into it. As far as the drivers in this particular lock, they are pretty basic. The only interesting one is in chamber number 4. It's a mushroom. It functions basically like a spool. It doesn't add a lot of difficulty to opening the lock when you're picking it. So those are the basics of this lock. This is a Medeco original. You can tell because, number one, there's no biaxial or other logo on the face of the lock. Also, the slot with the little tab on the pins where it fits is oriented towards the back. So it's 90 degrees from the sidebar. On the newer Medecos, it is on this side. It's 180 degrees from the sidebar. So I just learned that that's one of the ways you can tell, and it makes the pins non-compatible between the different versions of the lock. So that's the broad overview. I'm going to go ahead and get this picked up in the vise and then gutted so you can see all the internals again. Okay, I have this Medeco original in my vise. I'm just raking it to make sure that all the orientations are random. And I'm going to be picking this counterclockwise, trying to set the rotations first. This particular lock has a lot of false gates on the key pins, and so picking it counterclockwise was easier for me. I do recommend that if you're trying to pick a Medeco, you try both directions and see which way works best for you and your particular lock. So trying to set the rotations here by lifting the pins from either side to get them to shift rotation, and also sometimes just wiggling my pick a little bit as I lift. Again, just to see if I can get them to spin around a bit. Okay, I got a little false set there, which tells me that I am almost done. And there we go, popped it. Okay. Just needed a little tiny tap on 4. So let's go ahead and cut this. This has a somewhat annoying clip on the back. It's a little tough to get off. There we go. My follower here. So you can see the key pins all oriented correctly with the can there. There's the sidebar. Drop the sidebar spring. I do not want to lose that. So we'll take all the key pins out first. I'll take all the drivers out next. See if I can see it here when 4 is the mushroom. So you can see the mushroom driver there. Five is really tiny and hard to grab. There's 6. The springs are not special, so I'm not going to take those out. But there is the housing. You can see the groove right here. the sidebar fits into. And then I'll do a close-up here so you can see. So one security driver, this mushroom pin, and then you can see on these there's a true gate right there, and there's a false gate right there, and most of these have a false gate and a true gate. So there's the true gate, false gate, same thing on one, true gate, and a false gate. So not all of them had a false gate, but most of them did. All right, there is Pick and Gut Medeco Original.